Good morning, everyone. I hope we're all having a great, what's today, Wednesday already? I can't believe how fast the weeks go by, and I'm so excited to be here with you again this morning, sharing more about relationships and connection. I'm not sure if this is working this morning, so I'm looking for my dear friend to join me here on the show, and I'm struggling with getting it to work properly today. So there we go. Here we go. Hopefully my dear friend Steve will be here. And we're adding him. This is so funny. It's like a big drum roll until it actually happens. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. There you are. How are you this morning?
Hey, I'm good. Little on the stress side. I told her I was sitting in a hotel lobby area waiting for my room to get ready. So.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, it won't be ready till 2 o'clock. Yeah, traveling today, yeah.
Where are you off to? Good morning, everyone.
Actually going to Moline, Illinois. That's where I'm at. I actually landed this morning. So,
what are you doing?
Things to do. Got to meet a client tomorrow. I got a couple coaching clients that I work with. I work with a chiropractor here that we're really getting her set up. And then a couple other things that I got going. This is my old hometown. So it's really easy to get established with some clients in your old hometown, people who really want to grow their business. That's what I'm doing at this stage.
Nice. Fabulous.
Yeah.
Exciting.
but I got you set up on a little table, so I'm looking down at you, which is unusual to be looking down at the camera rather than, having it set up and everything ready to go and you're doing stuff.
We're good on the roll, right?
Yeah.
Improv is our
That's what it's all about. When people bring you in to speak, or I remember walked in a few months ago. I walked into this guy. He said, "I want to talk to you. I want you and the boss and so to talk to me about doing some workshops for us on training and customer service for our staff." I went, "Yeah, that'd be great." He said, "If you come in before 8 tomorrow, blah blah blah." I went, "Yeah." Walked in the side door, and there's a meeting going on. Like their usual meeting. And I went, "Okay, I'll slip in the back." And he went, "As a matter of fact, here's our speaker now." And I was like, "You want me to speak?" No, I was coming to meet you guys. So just like that, you got to be on. You know how that works. And you do a customer service presentation, and for about 20 minutes off the cuff. And yeah, we learned to roll real good with this stuff.
I get it. Exactly. Well, real quick, I know you've got a lot going on today, so I'm grateful we're doing this again. I know we always make time for our friends and connecting. And today I wanted to really focus more on working through the attachments. Like we were working last week a little bit around that discussion. I wanted to talk today more about the attachments around someone in discomfort. And when they're in, we love someone and we care about them and we're recognizing, they're in a state of denial of what's going on, and we want to tell them and make it better. We want to fix it for them, that fix it mentality.
Right.
And I want to talk about both sides of that, why we want to do that, and also to understand why it's not really that great to do that for someone. You can love and give love and support someone in a struggle, but when you try to make it, when you try to fix it for them, you actually block them from learning their life lessons. And I see this a lot with my children. When I work with my young people, they're trying to have a voice with their parents, and they're bumping up against that struggle and that ability to have a voice in that space. And even in our relationships, with a spouse, maybe they're struggling with some personal issues, or but it affects you and it impacts your life as well. And how do you navigate that? Have you ever been in a situation like that, Steve?
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times. I mean, I have to, one of the things, let's go to funerals. I remember I was like 30 years old, and a friend of mine, my boss actually had said, hey, his wife had passed away. I just started to work for this company. I'd been there like 3 weeks, and his wife had passed away, and he said, "Hey, how come you didn't show up at the funeral?" I went, like 30 years old, you're like, why would I? I didn't know this person. I hardly know you, that kind of stuff. But what he said was it would have meant a lot to me. And what I've learned over the years also is that when people are going through that, the worst thing we can say is, "I know how you feel." People go, "You don't know how I feel." And for us to put that block in, "I know how you feel, don't worry, it'll get better." It's like, don't tell me that, right? I don't know how they feel. And so always, if you can empathize with them, but you say, "I don't know how you would feel. I don't know how I'd ever feel if I were in your shoes, but know that I'm here to help you if you need my support." That is the line that I've learned over the years. Just changes people. Whether it's heartbreak. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Even I understand that this is a difficult time. You can understand somebody's struggle, because we've all struggled. But to say you know, if you've never experienced loss to that level, or, you know, and we all grieve differently. We really can't experience what somebody else is experiencing. So I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, that's fine. You know, that's one of the things. Tamara and I work real good because we both have, and I won't say different thoughts, but a lot of times we attack things from a different angle, and that's how we also help so many more people grow. I think that's evidenced by how we work together here. And so when we talk about grief, I was just watching something the other day on Facebook, and it brought back a flood from, again, about 25 years ago, where a young kid that my son and I knew very well had died on the football field. And, you know, I walk into this, I mean, I'd known the kid for a couple, 3 years, and I mean, we were close. My son, he were close. And so I go to their funeral, and I'm crying like a baby, and I see his dad, and I walk up, and his dad's just like this. He's like, you know, things happen. And I know the guy had to have his personal grief at that point in time, but boy, to look at him, he was a rock at the time. And everybody deals with grief and stress differently. Understand, allow them, you know, because I had heard some people say on that, wow, he doesn't look like he's affected at all. And you just want to scream at him, oh my gosh. Just because he's not crying now doesn't mean he doesn't walk in the other room and just absolutely bawl his eyes out, or whatever he may be doing to accomplish his grief relief. And that's true in everything, whether you're breaking up with somebody and going through heartbreak, or whether you've had a loss of life, or we talked briefly about if it's physical pain or emotional pain, you know, and we have to recognize with us, I recognize that I can be compassionate up to a point, and then from this point on, I'm not that guy. Example, I did a volunteer speech one day, and I got to know the volunteers. They brought me in to talk to them. They thought the volunteer organization might be dissolving because they weren't getting the funding they want. But for me to stand up in front, you know, I mean, I actually looked at them, and I got like 70 people here in front of me, and I went, you know, I hate all of you people. And they're looking at me like, what? I went, because you guys, I think I can give, but you guys give so much more than I can even hope to be in the giving stage. So there are some people who are meant to be givers and can give away, and there's others who we can give a little bit. And then there's some people who don't know how to give at all. And that's just part of who they have become over the years, right?
Right. I think there's also two sides to all of this. Like, there's the element of the person who's going through the grief process, and you're actually, you know, you're in the resistance, you're denying what's moving and what's going on. So you're put up that fight, you know, you want to be strong, or maybe you want to be, maybe you're emotional and you're crying all the time, you know, whatever your coping style is. But then the outer circle of what's going on beyond you and how it affects, I think being the person in the pain, we don't recognize how it affects everybody else, because we're, you know, our nucleus is so tight at that moment. And I had a really eye-opening moment when I was going through my divorce many years ago. I didn't realize how much, I knew it affected my kids, I knew it affected me, and I knew it was a change for many people around me. You know, it affects your family, the families change, the dynamics of things change around you. But I didn't realize that there was an actual grieving process, a death for others in that experience. You know, my parents grieved the loss of that relationship as well, because my father had taken him in as his own son, and that disappointment of ending can really, there's a whole other grieving depression style that's going on over there. And being the one that's defeated in the moment, you don't realize you have to actually give too, even though you feel like there's nothing left to give. There's a space that you need to find empathy to the people around you who are grieving the process. I think there's a component that selfishly we want to grieve and we want to process to satisfy ourselves, but we don't realize how many people around us are affected. I think it's a really helpful thing to know. The element of grief is not just one person, it affects many. It's a ripple. Right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and that's really a key. Yeah, that's really a key. Is even as you, and you might be blindsided. So I mean, I've known people who were broken up with, you know, at spur of the moment. They didn't know there was anything wrong with the relationship, and somebody else says it's over, and they're just devastated. Right. Be aware of what you're going to be able to do. Don't just think of yourself. And that is real key to what's going on around, especially if you've got kids involved in this. But even without the children, like she said, in-laws are affected by this. Everybody's affected by it, and people will take sides when there shouldn't be any sides to take, but you'll find people will take sides. And in that grief moment for you, an anger steps up, and an impossibility steps up, and you'll end up with hard feelings about that for a long time to come. And really work, get to know yourself well enough to understand that other people were affected in different ways. And yep, I lost a lot of friends in my divorce, you know, and therefore I don't call them friends, right? They obviously weren't friends of mine. They were friends of the relationship. And when the relationship ended, they had no reason to contact Steve. They weren't going to play cards with just Steve. They weren't going to do this with just Steve. And at the same time, you know, I was in, Tamra knows this, I was in a church, and I went fishing with the guys every spring. And we, for like four winters, we'd gone up north and fished together for a week at a time. And when my divorce happened, the guys flat out, I mean, it was awkward and they were real standoffish. And I finally cornered them and they said, well, Steve, we can't have you go up with us because our wives will be mad at us.
Wow. Oh. That's interesting. You know, I think that's really a fascinating...
I got my room. Oh. She just walked up. That's a Residence Inn, by the way. Residence Inn. They do a real good job. They weren't supposed to check me until 2 or 3, and now I'm already checked in. Anyway, God bless.
Yes. You know, I think it's really interesting how, you know, there is a lot of shame in relationships. You know, people, when we're grieving and going through loss, a lot of people don't feel comfortable in that grief process. So they will leave. And it doesn't mean they're not friends. I understand why you would say that. And I totally get that. And I don't want to disrespect that. But I think that there's an ebb and flow in relationships. And sometimes people leave because their own discomfort. It's not that you did something wrong or they didn't support you in that space. They sometimes can't. And if for the betterness of the situation, they leave because their inability would only create more trauma for you. So I almost think in divine way, things fall and ebb and flow the way they should. And I don't like to think of people as out of my life. I think that they come and go as we move through life. You know, some people come back and some people don't. And it's just, you can let go of this resistance of, you know, they're a friend, they're not a friend. Not saying that you're doing that, but just saying I can find that experience. A lot of us have that resistance to, well, they weren't there for me when I was going through this, so now I know who my real friends are. Well, yeah, I guess they're not there for you, but maybe because of what was going on with life, I think it's an empathy and compassion to recognize not everyone's supposed to do every dance with you as you go through, you know, life's battle. Not that that's what I'm saying you're doing, but I'm saying that that's part of the experience, right? But I also think that there's a process where in your, let's just even say in your divorce, or my divorce, that relationship only existed because of situational connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that situation changed, they're no longer connectable. They're not relatable anymore. So I think that that's a really right. Like I think that's what you're saying.
And I heard something. Yeah, and I heard something, you know, along that line, but it was people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Now, in my situation, because I've been traveling so much, you know, traveling around the country since I turned 60, you know, I find that the lifetime people are primarily gone. A few that I've known since childhood or that type of thing are around, but people come into your life for a reason. You know, it might be like a week even, might be a few months, it might be a few years. And then, of course, a season in your life might be, in my case, that was a 10-year season in my life. Where I accumulated those people, and then when it was time to move on, they moved on. And the key is, and she's got it right, which is just don't harbor any ill will, because, and I don't, you know, if those guys called me up this week and said, hey, we're going fishing, we haven't seen you in 12 years, we'd love to have you come along. That's right, I'd go, because I don't hold any ill will towards those 5 guys for having said our wives won't let us talk to you anymore. You know, that was part of the season, that's part of the growth.
Their own lack of voice. I feel like that was a gift you showed them, because they didn't have the courage to say to their wives, you know what, hey, I totally understand this feels awkward, but we're going to support someone we care about because we've been friends and that's my relationship, and honor that. But that's the lesson they needed to learn. It had nothing to do with you. But I think when we're in the pain, it's very difficult to discern the two. And that's why I was picking on you a little bit, and I'm sorry about that. But I just think it's kind of fun to kind of play with it. But I think it's kind of fun to play with that and recognize, you know, what is my resistance? Why am I upset that this person can't be there for me? I have many people in my life that, you know, family, friends, whatever, that can help me at times. And there are moments where I am so uncomfortable and my expression of what I'm saying is actually creating pain for them. I recognize, because I'm processing it in a way that they're not comfortable, it creates that negativity. You know, it creates that resistance. They want me to do things or, you know, be something that I'm not at the moment or that I'm evolving into. And that's okay. That's part of the experience. It's part of the fun of it. And I've learned to let go of being something I am not. You know, that whole, if I was somebody, if I was what they wanted me to be, I wouldn't be me. And I've started to really embrace the celebration of just being expansive and allowing people to be uncomfortable and not being supported or being understood clearly, you know, and there's that really cool opportunity. But I also think in the polar opposite of that, you know, how do you support someone when they're in that? You know, I'm talking from the pain perspective now, like when you're seeing someone in pain, let's flip it. That experience, you know, we're supporters by nature. We care by nature. And I think it can be really frustrating to you know, navigate that expression, you know, like, oh, it's so clear, you know, being a parent, sometimes you're like, I see it so clearly. Why are they not doing what they know they need? And you get really frustrated, right? You're really attached to them getting this or really figuring it out. And I think that blocks that, like we were saying earlier, blocks them from learning their own experience. And maybe they come up with a way of doing it totally different than what you think should be done. And yet they're successful because they did it their way. I think there's a lot of expansion there and opportunity to support someone without attachment. So I think
that's yeah. Well, you have lots of people who you will meet who will be in pain. That's one of the things. Whether we can support them for any extended period of time, because I've met people that, well, you've helped get through this. I've had people help me get through stuff, you know. And like one guy I'd known since I was in 20s, showed back up in my life a few years ago, helped me get through something. For about 3 years, we were real close again, and then we drifted back apart. So he was back in for that season. But also, when you're helping people get through stuff, a lot of times it depends so much on you going through your pain, because if I call you up and all you do is go, oh, woe is me, and I mean, I call you up time after time, and I go, so here's what you can do, you know, what have you been reading, what have you been listening to, what have you been doing, and they're like, oh, woe is me, oh, I'm terrible, oh, the life is terrible, everything about life is terrible. And you can only do that so long as a supporter, and then you have to distance yourself from that someone, because it doesn't seem like they really want to get better. So when you're going through your pain, just admit that I'm going to be going through some things for a while, and set a time limit even for yourself. And you go, well, Steve, how can you set a time limit? Grief has a time limit. You determine the time limit. Grief can be 30 days. Grief can be a year, 2 years, 4 years. But when it starts to be a continual grief that affects your personality and all the people around you, understand that people are going to run away from that kind of pain because they can't deal with it, and there's no reason for them to deal with it. So that's one of the challenges we face when I talk about like a breakup. A lot of times it's, if I'm going through it, I know from experience that you're going to get over it. Right? Painful, you think you're going to die, you know, and that's what, you know, I sound like Rosanna right there. I think I'm going to die. But it's one of those deals where when we're going through it, we can say, hey, you know what, this is going to be 6 months of absolute terror for me. But I understand that I'm going to come out the other side eventually. I don't know it now, but I know that eventually it will feel better. And kind of mentally set your own time clock for how soon. If it's a loss of a child or something like that, wow, you're going to have that grief with you all the time, but you aren't constantly going to be sharing it like you do in the initial stages of grief. And there is a difference in how you deal with it, how you show it to other people, so that we can help you get better. And that's the key. Tamra will tell you all the time that how we deal with it, as well as how we help others go through it, depending on personalities, right?
Yeah, it really does. And I don't think many people have really educated themselves on the stages of grief. You know, there is a lot written about it. There's like 12 stages or 7 stages, you know, there's controversy around even that. I think that recognizing, and this is the way I look at it, for me, when I go through a grief process, I recognize whatever stage I'm in of grief is where I need to be at the moment. It's an opportunity for me to grow and be better. And it's a gift to be able to feel these emotions. It's not, you know, I don't identify with them. I see a lot of people going, you know, I'm so sad right now, or I'm really angry right now.
I'm going to interrupt because it's Tamra is real special there. If I'm in the middle of crying my eyes out because my heart's broken, I don't go, boy, this is a gift. Thank you very much. I'm so happy to have this. No, it's like, get away. I hate you.
No, you're like, yeah, they're really not liking this so much. You know, and it is, and I know it's hard to see it that way. I get that. It is very, very challenging. But the truth is, you know, if we don't feel our sadness, we can't feel our joy. We need that emotional range. And the deeper we feel our sadness, the deeper we can feel our joy. So it is important to expand that range. But I don't think we look at it that way. We just want out of it. We want out. We don't want to be sad. We don't want to be angry. We don't want to be this. We don't want to be that. So the more you focus on what you don't want, the more you're going to get it. So I have learned to recognize that my anger is a gift, or my sadness is a gift. Yeah. So it's like one of those experiences that is like expand into understanding that all the emotions are valuable. It's just what's accessible to me at the moment was why anger's coming out. Or when I had an incident a couple days ago where I actually passed out in the hot tub. As I got out, I was out for a while, and when I came to, I actually was giggling nonstop, and my friend was like, "Oh my gosh, that was all that was available to me. I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't full of shame. It was the only emotion available to me at the time as I was coming back was giggling, and it was almost irrational to be laughing at that moment. I know." But I've never passed out before, so it was a very weird experience. I ended up with walking pneumonia. That's why I passed out. But I didn't realize that my body was giving me cues that I needed to slow down. So the only emotion that I had available at the moment was laughter. And it seems like almost movie, you'd be thinking, you're like more shocked, but that was the only element that was available to me. So I think we have these expressions to get them, to understand the range. And instead of being embarrassed that I'm giggling, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, how funny. It made me happy. Of course, I couldn't stop very easily. But I do think it's important to understand that, you may be in the resistance of, maybe someone's experience where where you see you're in a breakup and you feel manipulated, you feel angry about, he's a narcissist. Whatever.
Yeah.
Really recognizing that's your perception of that individual about the experience. It's not
absolutely right. That's right.
And it may be unhealthy for you. So understanding that's when you should leave and walk away is a beautiful element of knowing yourself. But you have to know yourself in all of those emotions and all the way you express them.
How do we get to know ourselves? I mean, I'm sure some people out there are sitting there going, well, that's easy for you to say, but how do we get to know ourselves? I mean, I think I know myself.
Yeah, I know a lot of people go, oh, I know who I am. What are you talking about? I find that fascinating because I don't think we ever really truly know all elements of ourselves. We know components of how we react under stress or pressure, and we will avoid those situations in order to stay safe, right? But there's a deep level of knowing yourself where you understand why you react the way you do and how to manage the stress and how to understand those elements of why they happen. It's another level. It's not avoiding. It's actually stepping into the relationship and understanding more about you and why those things happen. It's a really big gift to get to know yourself on that level and getting a chance to really participate in those emotions. How would you express getting to know yourself better? I mean, this is my version.
Well, I think that's exactly right. You have to recognize first that we really don't know ourselves. I said a couple times on these podcasts, if enough people call me an ass, then I have to realize that to them I'm an ass. That doesn't mean I have to feel like I'm an ass all the time. But those are parts of what we do that says, hey, I don't really know myself that well if somebody's going to say that to me. Now, it doesn't have to be that word, doesn't have to be that term, but if they say, how come you're always sad? How come you're this? Why about that? Then you got to realize that there are parts of you that you're showing to people that you don't recognize you're showing.
Yeah, there's an element of you that you're
showing. Absolutely. And so those are things that we have to start, listening to from other people. If we start tuning in, what do other people have to say about us? How do they share? When I do my workshops on leadership and being great managers, I always ask the managers or the supervisors, put out a survey, an anonymous survey only sent back to me at this person, so that people can express honestly what they're thinking anonymously, because no one knows what those people are thinking of you. You really don't. What they say to your face, not necessarily true at all when you turn your back. And that's true of your friends. You don't know what your friends are really saying about you, but you'll hear it in snippets. I always say when I'm talking to dating people, when you meet their friends, and when a friend goes to the bathroom and they go, I've never seen Tamra with someone like you before. And that puts up red flags, but it also says, hey, what don't they know about Tamra that that I know, or vice versa. What about Steve, Drew, that type of thing. So those are the parts of getting to know yourself. What your friends say to you in a snippet, or what they might say in a phrase, and then go, oh, it doesn't matter, never mind. But it does, because that's what they really thought at that moment. And you have to start feeling that. We getting some good feedback on that? Somebody asking questions?
Yeah, no, someone's saying hello to you. See you tomorrow. I think it's Gary.
Oh.
Is it Gary?
I don't know. That's a good question. Oh, Jerry. Geri.
Jerry. I think
Jerry Krukenberg.
I guess I need glasses, people. It's going really fast. I had a hard time passing it.
That's my that's one of my coaching clients, Jerry Krukenberg Chiropractic. Hey, I get a plug in there. Go see her in Moline, Illinois. We'll see you then. But yeah, so and those are the things that we have to work on in terms of getting to know ourselves. Write yourself an essay, right? You might want to write a deal. Like, I know people say, hey, how would you like your eulogy to be read, when you're gone? And write your own eulogy. How do you see yourself? What do you want others to say about you? Mm-hmm. And then give it to a friend or two and say, hey, this is what I was thinking of my eulogy. And they'll think you're weird at first, but then they'll read it and go, and if they start laughing, then you know that you were way off target on some part of it. Because they're like, you see yourself as that? And you'll go, well, yeah, am I not? And they go, heck no, And so those are the kind of things when we get to know ourselves, you actually have to reach out to get to know yourself a lot of things. Reach out and say, hey, how do I learn more about me? One thing you talked about earlier, and I picked up on, and that's, and I remember how you worded it, but it was like, anyway, it was a negative. It was like, I don't see myself as this, or I don't. And most people don't understand that our minds don't appreciate negatives. We don't understand it at all. We go back to the dessert on a diet. If I go on a diet and I say I can't have pie, your mind doesn't understand the negative. So all it hears you saying to yourself is pie. I can have pie. No, you can't have pie. Ooh, pie. And then so you focus on what you deny. Isn't that it? You focus on what you don't want. So if I say, I don't want to hate anymore, guess what you're going to keep doing? You're going to keep hating. I don't want to feel this way anymore. Well, guess what you're doing? You're feeling that way. Because the only way to put it in is a positive. And the positive is, I want to feel this way. I want to be happier. And you've heard in all of your motivational stuff, you say, I am happy, right? I am happier. This is how we live our lives. And so once you understand that your mind doesn't understand the negatives, it'll be easier to get yourself out of wherever you might be in a funk. When we started off talking about how to deal with people who are going through pain, whether it's emotional or physical, and how we have to acknowledge those people for where they are right now. And then we have to acknowledge ourselves for being able to deal with them, not being able to deal with them, or not being able to cope with that at all. And you'll find some of your friends will absolutely run away if you're in any kind of pain.
Yeah, a lot of the times we don't like discomfort. It's a survival instinct. It's fight, flight, or freeze for a lot of us, and the ego kicks in to protect us. And a lot of people don't recognize that the reason they're uncomfortable in those situations is because we connect and we relate to them. They're familiar. We recognize them. And some will actually gravitate towards it. They'll have a desire to participate in somebody else's grief. They kind of are bandwagoners. They kind of jump on and go, yeah, can you believe they did that? And they participate, right? And they get a lot more, they rouse you up a little bit more. They stir your pot, And I've always been a big believer that sympathy is not necessarily a mastering tool. It's almost a collapsed tool. And I've learned that empathy, wow, I'm sorry that's happening. Anything I can do to support you, or, I'm here to listen if you'd like to talk about it. Empathy is always so much stronger in helping someone feel themselves and learn through their experience. And it also gives them a support system. You're not taking away from their experience, it's adding to their experience. They don't feel as lonely and they don't feel as defeated. And isolation, I think, is one of our number one fears when it comes to relationships. Fear of abandonment, fear of being forgotten, the story of that.
But isn't that funny? And I want you to come right back to that, because when you say we're afraid of that isolation, and yet the first thing we do is isolate ourselves, right?
Yeah. Right, because we feel that if we did it to ourselves, we can't be angry, or that we were in control of it, right? That is this false perception. And the truth is, we all want to love and connect. Now, I'm not saying for our introverts or people who are more, they want me time. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actual self-care. What I'm talking about is a sense of community, a sense of, you know, recognition or like minds, a connection. And that is totally different. Well, a lot of the times when we're feeling not understood, or we are learning about elements of ourselves, and we're meeting people who do not necessarily match our sense of ourselves, that's actually a gift too, because we're learning the opposite. So there are like-minded people, and there's the opposite expression of like-minded people. So you start to recognize, you know, that you're having a resistance experience to recognize, to learn the darkness or the polarity. So if you can really navigate those two expressions, you'll recognize that just because you found your like-minded friends doesn't mean that you're not going to experience the opposite, to learn the difference, to value those people who connect to you. And I also think that helps us grow. If we are exposed to people who don't think like us, we can get a chance to learn the opposite perspective, to relate and connect better with people who don't think like us. So we're more connected. You know, that whole soulmate connection isn't necessarily what I think people think it is. A lot of this, I always think of people are like, I want to meet my soulmate. And I'm like, well, we're all soulmates. I mean, we all connect by our souls. We all, you know, make a connection. I think of, you know, the one person I want to do work with, you know, somebody who I want to spend a lifetime with. That's your life partner. So it's a little bit different, you know, that whole dynamic, but that's a whole nother discussion.
That's a whole time. That's a workshop all by itself.
Right.
And speaking of workshops, I'm going to wrap this up in about 2, or you're going to wrap this up in about 2 minutes for us. But we got a workshop coming up.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. In February. What are the dates? I've got too many dates going on in my head. Do you know the dates?
See, no, that's what I was tossing over to you so you could fix
you
that.
You were going to do that to me, weren't you? Okay, well, I'll post it down below. I did put in, if you guys have any other discussions or any things you'd like to contribute, or maybe topics you'd like us to discuss, I left a link below for everyone to kind of send me an email. And you know, that was
a great Facebook post, meme, whatever you call it. That was great. If you guys didn't see it, go look at the Facebook meme that Tamra put out, inviting you to come to this Facebook Live. But it's a beautiful meme. I really liked it.
Thank you. I made that a long time ago. It's one of my favorite ones about love. I really do find, you know, that I love those tools. We have such an amazing world right now with the way we can communicate and share with each other. It's so exciting. So this workshop that is coming up, it is in February. I will send you the dates and all the information, and there is a little bit of a survey for you to fill out. So not only can we make sure that we provide great content and get you exactly what you need from us in that class, but also to make sure that we're all a good fit, so it's not a waste of anybody's time or money. So please contact us, and we will, you know, make a, you know, send it your way and see if that's something to work. It's all about support and unconditional love in that space. And the whole idea is you have an amazing connection, wherever you are in your relationship. If you're married or if you're looking to find love, it's actually a great space because it's all about personal work and understanding how you show up. So it's always been an amazing experience. Would you like to say goodbye, Steve, and then we'll wrap it up?
That's it. I think I'm all set. I'm ready to go. I gotta go check in. I gotta go do this other stuff. Man, we're rolling. So yeah, we'd love to have you come to our event. It's going to be down here in Tampa. It's going to be in the wintertime, so you're going to love Tampa in the wintertime everywhere else in the world. So please come join us. Touch base with Tamra. We'll hook you up with some tickets, and we'll go from there. God bless. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful week. It's only Thursday. Is it Thursday? No, today's Wednesday. It's only Wednesday. Well, you know, it's only Wednesday, but you guys have a great week. And if you think about your goals, if you've got them written down, check and see how your goals are doing for this week. You still got 3 more days to hit those goals, and I believe in you. That's what it's all about.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, everyone who showed up, and by all means, reach out. And thanks again for the time today, Steve. Talk to you guys soon.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Hey, one thing before you go, one thing I want to say is on this Facebook Live stuff, my head is so much bigger than yours. What is that all about?
Do I need to get closer?
No, I think mine's just a big head. Look at that. Jeez, a monstrous head. I bet you it's too big for my body if I look. I don't know. Anyway, great. Thanks for talking to you.
Ridiculous. You are perfect. All right. I'll talk to you. Bye.
Bye.